Thank you for joining me for another quick hits conversation. Today I would like to talk about how do you deal with ambush conversations. And ambush conversations are when people grab you to talk about something important when you are not ready to have that conversation. Abby, can you kick us off?
Sure. This is something I've actually been thinking about lately, and I think it's probably because of the transition back into the office. I was home for a year and change, and I thought mostly, oh my gosh, I just did that to someone, and I'm trying to not do it to others, because I think most of the time it's not a lack of respect of their time, it's excitement about doing something for me. So I am now, I'll walk by someone and they'll grab me, and to kind of put that boundary up for myself, I've started to say, can this wait a moment? I just grabbed my lunch out of the kitchen, or whatever the reason is I'm walking around. Is this urgent? Can we come back to this around 2 or 3? I've really been trying to set that boundary, and also trying not to do it to others. I grabbed my boss yesterday when he walked by, and I said, I'm so sorry. You're probably doing something else. Like, is it an okay time? So it's been on my mind since I've come back to the office, because I'm just hyper aware of being around people again. So just kind of thinking my boundary and their boundary. That's how I'm starting to deal with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because when you asked this question, I was probably more guilty of being the ambusher. What's the right one? I mean, I think back to my last corporate position, and through no fault of the individual I reported to, just pulled in 1,000 different directions, and it felt like there were many times I had to somehow find him in between stuff to, hey, we've been talking about this stuff, and from a time management perspective, it was something that was very difficult. And the sad part is, I think I was told no a lot more often than yes, I think, as he thought about it. And that was so. It isn't so much saying yes or no. It's you're not really providing the opportunity, kind of as Abby said, you're not giving the opportunity to really talk through what could be a critical situation. So you have to make sure that whether you're doing the ambushing or you're the one kind of being kind of approached, it's how do you stop that? And I think that's just kind of becomes critical in terms of what's going on, because it's just, yes, I can relate too many times where decisions were made and probably should have been thought through a little bit more carefully.
And Bill, for me, the last 2 years, I've pretty much been working from my house. So the only interruptions would be really from my family members. And usually I can just say, look, I'll be free in 30 minutes or I'll be free in an hour. Can I come and find you then? And that usually is okay. The only one I can't put off is my dog, because when the dog comes in, he wants to go out. I have no choice. So I have to say, okay. But also, I feel like you do too, Bill. Sometimes I feel like I'm the ambusher when it comes to, electronic communications, because there's things that I need answers to, and I'm sending messages to somebody and I'm hoping they get back to me in 10 minutes as opposed to a couple of hours. And if I don't hear from them, sometimes I have to follow up with a phone call, because, a client really needs something right away. And if it's a designer, developer, writer, programmer, I need to get some information, from them in order to get back to the client. Sometimes I just have to break somebody's routine and just say, hey, look, I need to get an answer. So I am on both sides of the equation.
Yeah. Abby, I love the point that you made where you ask people, can this wait? I think that that's a really good way to handle ambush conversations, because one of the things I've definitely seen with my clients is that when they end up in an ambush conversation, they make those decisions that aren't really well thought out, and then they regret them later. And I see this a lot where people say yes when they should say no, but because they're being ambushed and it's really quick. And it can be something so simple as, hey, can I use your truck? Or, hey, can you fill this form out? Or whatever. And then you look at it later and you're like, oh, I should have said no. And then how do you go back on it? So I think being prepared, and what I found for my clients is when I give them the term ambush conversations, then they start recognizing them more in their lives.
Yeah. And I shut my door. I try to put things in the calendar, my door's open most of the time. So when it's closed, people know, like, I'm doing something, please, unless it's urgent, don't come in. So that's one of those little boundaries I've put up. But I noticed even this morning, since you said that, whatever I'm working on is what loses, because I come back to it. I've lost my flow, and I'm thinking, well, where was I in this, writing up what we talked about in the client meeting or something. Well, where was I? And then I have to go back and think, did I assign out this task or that one? So it actually is a time suck on that end too, because I can't complete the thought that I was doing. So it's, but then you don't want to be rude because the person coming in wants help. And, you know, I'm naturally someone who's like, let's resolve this, but we can't really multitask, I think is part of it too. Like, that's not really a possibility.
Not a thing.
No, we try, but yeah, it's tough because you want to help, but at the same time, you don't want to be rude and say no, but it's what is that line? And I'm figuring it out now that, unlike Rick, I'm no longer in my house with just the dog. So well, I'm learning.
Yeah.
I think it depends on your circumstances too, because when I worked in an office for somebody else and I was salaried and somebody would come to my desk, I would probably drop what I was doing, answer their questions. If it meant, you know, I had to drop it for a half hour, great. And then I'd be in your same situation trying to figure out where was I, what was I doing? Now it's a little bit different because now I'm billing, you know, clients on an hourly basis. And, you know, we got to track everything in like 10-minute increments. So I've got to make sure that, you know, I don't lose track and I kind of stay focused. So it's a little bit different there because, you know, I want to make sure that, you know, I'm focusing on the task and I'm not, you know, overbilling clients or anything like that.
I know with my with the small business that I have, I mean, I do try to make it a point where, because I'm not there at the location every day, the manager's there, but I do try to make sure that every day I'm in there seeing her and she and I just have this chance to kind of catch up on everything, because there have been times in the past where, this may be a bad analogy, but it's not so much an ambush in between meetings, but it's almost an ambush question in between another topic we were discussing. And I kind of did one of these, you know, they felt passionate about it. And I was like, okay, that's fine. And then honestly, afterwards, I kind of thought about it and said, I'm not sure how that kind of got woven into the conversation we were having. And I kind of went ahead and kind of gave an okay, and it wasn't really the path that I wanted to take. But, you know, so it's something that with all that was going on, it was just, you know, to the individual, it might've been not a throwaway, but it might've just been, hey, what was thought of as a simple question. And yet, when I kind of finally had a chance to think about it afterwards, like, I'm not sure that's quite as simple as maybe it was made out to be. So, you know, there's definitely this, as you're going through what's happening and people are coming at you with stuff. I mean, Rick is right. Like, again, my corporate life, when my boss came in and said he wanted something, it's like, okay, just throw everything else out and I'm going to get it to you as fast as you can. And then you wonder what happened to all the rest of the stuff. And then how do you get back in touch with that?
And I think that does lead to some burnout, because you end up with people, if you have a culture where those ambush things, you know, what's urgent versus what is important, which I've done a quick hit about before, is that you end up with all these people coming in, ambushing you with urgent things, and you never get to the important things. And then you end up completely just overwhelmed.
Yeah. Now, Robyn, I think Bill would agree with me on this. And being in the marketing world, ambush takes on a whole different tone for us, because ambush, really, we think about reporters and somebody trying to put you on the spot and get a comment out of you so they can get it on the news. And the more sensational, the better. So the term ambush means something very, very different to us.
Well, but it's the same idea, right? Is if someone gets you when you're not prepared, you're not ready, you're not in that mindset, you're going to say stuff that you're going to probably regret, especially if it ends up on the news.
Right. It's especially from the marketing standpoint, a big part of it is coaching our staff to not be, just give an answer on the fly because of just that reason, what you just described.
And how does that coaching look? Like, what do you tell them how to be prepared for people coming up and sticking a microphone in their face?
Well, some of it is just you actually take them through training sessions. You take them through media training, where you basically kind of grill them, you throw these questions at them and see how they respond, and then kind of coach them through that. And basically saying, you know, you can pause, you can stop and take a second to think about the question. And if it's something that's relevant and you can answer it, great. If not, can you say, hey, I can get back to you on it, or you can give a more, cogent response to their question.
Yeah. And I think that's something I do, with my clients when we do communication and conflict resolution training, is we talk about the more you're prepared, the more you understand what's going to happen, the better it's going to be for you if you have these kind of things happening with these ambush conversations. And I love the fact that we've talked about, we do it to other people, even though, and I'm not unguilty of it. Unguilty, not guilty. I'm not guilty, not guilty. However that works, however that wording goes, I do it too. I make phone calls, I send text messages, and fortunately, electronic you can ignore it more easily than you can somebody walking into your office and saying, hey, what's going on? Can I talk to you? So I want to thank you so much for having this conversation with me. This has been our 10 minutes. It's been great. I appreciate the discussion about ambush conversations, and we'll do it again very soon.
Thanks.
Thank you.